Welcome to Creation in the 21st Century. I'm your host, Carl Ball, founder and director of the Creation Evidence Museum in Glen Rose, Texas. We want to thank TBN for the privilege of airing this program worldwide. Were it not for their gracious facilities, hospitality, the staff, everything that makes this a functioning entity, this would be an impossible endeavor. Thanks again, TBN. Now, the title to today's program is Who Made the Box? Now, it is obvious as we observe the universe and we can measure the function of the universe to a great degree that there are microscopic details in the ocean, plankton, all the way to crustacean, to great mammals such as the whales, fishes in between. On the surface of the land, we have various life forms intermingling and interconnected. We call that symbiosis. Each depends on the other. We look out into the stellar heavens and we see astronomers have double the number of galaxies, and that multiplies the number of stars. In fact, they considered previously that we had over 225 billion galaxies. Now they have doubled that number. So we have planets, we have moons, we have stellar systems, we have galaxies. We have an incredible universe. What a box! Who made the box? As I've mentioned on this program many times, there are four great questions of life, and these questions are discussed in the philosophy departments and science departments of all the major universities of the world. These four great questions are, number one, who am I? Number two, where did I come from? Number three, what's my purpose here? Number four, where am I going after this is over? It's the second of these questions that we spend a lot of time on this program, Creation in the 21st Century. It is, where did I come from? Not only I, but where did all of these myriads of galaxies that are concentrically aligned, and our Milky Way galaxy is at or near, we and our galaxy are at or near the center of the universe. Beyond us are 7 concentric spheres or shells of stellar bodies and galaxies. All of this has a marvelous beauty about it, a symmetry, a design. That's the box. Well, who made the box? I've asked to come to the studio today a dear friend, colleague, fellow researcher, Professor Bruce Malone, chemical engineer.
Thank you, Carl.
It is always a pleasure to have you.
And it is always my honor to be here.
Well, you communicate, and first of all, your research is founded in truth.
Well, I hope so.
Yes, and
if it's not founded in truth, then it's of no value.
That is correct,
So.
And your professional background is such that you worked for many years with Dow Chemical, right, and was leader in establishing, what, 18 different patents for them?
Yeah, that's correct. My degree is in chemical engineering, and basically I'm a person who tries to figure out why things work the way they do and then improve them or modify them to get them to work better in a different way.
Well, let me ask you a question I've never asked you. You now, and you have, of course, because of your chemical engineering background, you've observed living systems. Have you ever found a way to make them work better?
Well, you know, medical researchers find ways to repair things that went wrong.
Yes.
But they're really not improving the original design. They're trying to bring what's wrong back up to perform the way it should have performed to begin with.
Now that's a major statement. So
Well,
they
it
haven't
is.
been able to improve on the design just to help correct some of the problems that
Well,
went wrong with the design.
Honestly, we're heading down a different trail than I thought we were going to head, but this is fun. What's interesting about this program, we don't have to stick to any sort of script.
That's right.
The problem isn't, does evolution exist? The problem isn't, is evolution happening? The issue is, what direction is evolution heading?
Oh, this
You
program's
see,
a lot
things-
about that.
Things do vary.
Sure.
There is lots of variety in a given type of dog or a different type of life. But continuously, as we observe the biological world, we see a deterioration downward. We don't see an
Always.
advancement upward.
That
and that's
is
what you were
correct.
asking.
That
No,
is exactly.
the original design is incomprehensibly, phenomenally beautiful and perfect.
Yeah, even
and it's deteriorated downwards.
That's right. Even in a fallen state, we
Yeah.
can observe an original perfection.
Correct.
In living systems, in the function of the universe as a
Yep.
whole.
We sure
now,
can.
you brought a box. And the way you think is so intriguing, the analysis, and that's what this program is about.
Yeah.
And the question is, who made the box? Now, did somebody make this box?
Well, that would depend on who you ask.
All right, let's see what you have to say.
Let me, you know, I like to say the reason that I seem to be able to communicate with people is because I like to simplify,
Good.
and get down to the basics of figuring out what is the truth. You mentioned the truth earlier on.
Yes.
When I go onto a college campus, for instance, the students have been trained for 18 years that everything can be explained by natural processes. The laws of science can explain where everything came from. Well, there's this enormous mystery all around us. Where did everything come from?
Yes.
In other words, let's pretend that this finely crafted jewelry box represents the entire universe.
All right.
Okay. All of the matter and all of the energy and the stars and the galaxies and the quasars and the black hole and the enormous space is all represented by this box. All right? Not only that, the life on this planet, the chemicals, the complexity, the variety is all represented by jewels inside the box.
yes.
You know, the molecular proteins of life, the individual components are like individual little jewels in the box. So everything, all of reality, all of life, all of matter,
right.
all of energy, it's all here.
Okay.
Now, you have to explain, where did the box come from? There are only two possibilities scientifically.
Okay.
Either that box that represents the universe made itself,
Made itself,
or something outside the box made the box.
or something outside the box made that.
That's the mystery. It's one or the other.
Okay.
You can't have it both ways.
You're right.
If natural laws explain how the box got here, then there really is no need for God. It can all be explained by natural laws.
Yeah, it made itself.
But is it really logical? Now, that's the mystery. And I'm going to go to a kind of a strange place for your show. It's for a quote. But there was a man named Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, and he invented in literature the most famous solver of mysteries of all time.
Oh.
And he penned these words. Sherlock Holmes said,
Yes.
if you have eliminated the impossible, whatever is left, no matter how unlikely, must be the answer.
Okay.
Okay? We have two possibilities. God made the box, or the box made itself.
Yes.
So the question is it possible that the box made itself? Because if not, you're only left with things that our academic world doesn't want to believe, that God did it.
That's correct.
And that is the truth. That is the answer. So
All
the question
right.
is, how do you solve that mystery?
Okay.
Now, one more illustration. I have here a 5,000-piece
Oh,
puzzle.
it's going to take a while to work on that.
Okay, now normally a 2,000-piece puzzle is challenging, all right? Now think about it. We are trying to explain the whole universe without God. That's what our educational system is doing.
Yes, that's true.
They're systematically training our children to believe you can't trust the Bible because it can all be explained without the Bible,
Yes.
all right? So that's like taking the puzzle that is the universe and removing all the edge pieces. Now this makes it a little tougher. And
Removing
now,
the edge. Oh, so we don't have a fudge
no edge
factor
pieces,
to begin with.
And we no longer can look at the cover. I'm going to cover up the cover of the puzzle.
We don't have a picture
It's just,
of what it
no,
looks
there's
like.
no picture.
And the edge pieces have been removed?
As a matter of fact, I'm going to blend a whole bunch of different puzzles because I'm looking at the cosmology and biology and geology. And I'm going to
Yes.
pull out some of the pieces. So now I've got my puzzle, no picture, no edges, a whole bunch of different pieces. And here's my 5,000 pieces. And I'm going to just kind of scatter them. Okay?
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Now, do you want to put the puzzle together, Carl?
Yeah. Can you help me, please?
That is what modern science is trying to do. It's trying to solve the mystery of where did the box come from without the picture, without the edges,
Right.
with a whole bunch
No
of mixed
fudge factor
pieces.
at all.
And they're ignoring those indications that tell you the concept the box made itself is an absolute scientific impossibility.
Would you say that again? That's the heart of what you came to say.
It is the heart. The concept that the box, the universe made itself, that life made itself, that the coded information of DNA created itself is an absolute scientific impossibility.
All right. And if that's an impossibility, we go to the other alternative, no matter how the academic community refuses to accept it.
Even if you consider it improbable, it is the only other alternative.
That
God had to have made the box.
That there's a creator, God, who made the box and everything in it.
So that's what science can do. It can look at the two possibilities.
Okay.
It can look at the laws of science, and it can come to a conclusion which one of those two possibilities is really the truth.
Can you help us with that?
Well, let's walk back over this
All right.
way.
That's where your scientific expertise comes into place.
About 2 years ago, after 28 years at Dow Chemical, I left the company to produce a book to help parents equip their children to understand the propaganda they're up against.
Yes.
The book was called Censored Science. A third of the book talks about cosmology. Where did the universe come from? Where do stars come from? A third of the book talks about biology. A third of the book talks about geology.
Yes.
The three major sciences.
Yes.
So we're going to take one example from one page of each of these sciences,
right.
and we're going to look at what does science show us. So we start.
All right, let's start. We're in
We're going to
class.
start with stars. This is a picture, beautiful picture of our sun. A sun is a
Yes.
star.
Yes.
Well, stars are an enormous ball of hydrogen gas.
Yes.
There's so much there that the gravitational force pulls it and condenses it and causes nuclear fission to take place where enormous amounts of energy are given up and it lights up and it gives us light.
Yes.
The universe, to the best of our knowledge, has 100 billion galaxies, each containing 100 billion stars.
Yes.
Now, this is where it gets interesting. They can't last as long as we're told the universe is old. Therefore, cosmologists believe stars are continually remaking themselves. And they say hydrogen gas just comes together in huge clouds and condenses to form new stars. Well, now we look at what science tells us. When we put gas in a vacuum, do you think it comes together?
No, it doesn't.
It flies apart.
It dissipates in every direction.
Absolutely. Every single time. That is science.
Yes, that's science.
It's the gas laws of science. Or when you take charged hydrogen particles, when they spin, they have a charge, and you bring them closer and closer together, it's like bringing a bunch of magnets together that all have the same charge.
That's
they repel
correct.
each other.
They repel.
So
they do not coalesce.
once again, it breaks the laws of science to believe that gas could come together and form a star. So it violates what we know about the laws of science.
That's right.
And we have looked at every little part of space. Since the 1970s, we've had the Hubble Space Satellite looking all through space. And it'll take a picture of some little part of the sky way out there. And then we'll come back 5, 10, 15, 20 years later, we'll take another picture of that same area of space. Not once have we ever seen a new star form.
That's right.
Not even once.
We can postulate it, but have never seen it happen.
So it violates the laws of science. It's never been observed. And yet evolutionists say stars are forming continuously all over the universe.
And to prop up their theory, they must be forming, but they cannot prove, they cannot point to one that has.
So it is a scientific impossibility. Now, God's Word,
That's
almost
the
as a
point.
footnote, says God made the entire universe. He made
Yes.
life on Earth. He made the planets. And then it says, oh, yeah, I made the stars also.
Just
Almost
a
as an
sweep of a
afterthought.
hand. Oh, yes, and God made the stars.
100 billion galaxies
Of
with
stars.
100 billion stars at each one.
Yes.
10 with
Yes.
22 zeros. I made the stars also. That's the
love
God we serve.
That's the God we serve.
Now, evolutionists are training our children that that is totally improbable. One moment there's not a star, the next moment there is a star. See, in their mind, that's improbable. But what they believe is impossible.
Is impossible.
Sherlock Holmes would say, when you eliminate the impossible, whatever's left even if it's improbable, must be true.
You've made the statement.
So,
You've made it well.
so now we move on
All right.
to geology.
To geology.
Supposedly,
From the heavens to the earth.
yeah, from the heavens to the earth. We see evolution happening in the rock layers. That's what we're all told. And let's be honest, you can line things up. You can take a fish with a backbone, and then you'll find fish that have bones in their fins.
As a general tendency.
And then you could find a reptile that looks kind of like it's more fish-like than reptile-like. And then you can find some sort of a mammal that's a small mammal that looks kind of like the reptile. And you can line the bones up. And if your children see nothing but that, it's going to be convincing to them.
Yes.
And supposedly we'll see in the geological layers of the planet evolution happening. But the problem that children aren't told is you can't explain how those layers got there by slow, gradual processes.
That's right. And you can't connect those links.
Right. This is a page in the book, and in each page, this book, Censored Science, is kind of what are the 50 best evidences for the Bible is a trustworthy map that can be followed and explain reality. On this page, I call it Mr. Sandman.
Okay.
All right, intriguing title. Just one layer of all of this geology on our planet. In the western United States, there's a layer of sandstone called the Navajo sandstone.
Yes.
It is about 1,000 foot deep, and it extends all through Utah, down up a little bit into Wyoming, into Arizona, in enormous hundreds of thousands of square miles. The exact same sand particles can be found in the Appalachian Mountains, all the way out east. But in between, there's no trace of the sand.
Okay.
So evolutionists believe slowly, gradually, the sand was transported from the Appalachian Mountains and redeposited out there in Utah, 1,000 foot deep. Now, they don't have any way to explain that. They postulate, in other words, they make up a story that says rivers transported sand. Now, how do you cover an area the size of the state of Utah with 1,000 foot of sand with a river and leave nothing in between? You see the sand would be dropping out all along the way. But an enormous flood that the Bible talks about could pick up unbelievable amounts of sediment.
That's right.
And with high energy, transport
That's
it
right.
rapidly, and when the waves slow down, drop huge layers of sediment over huge regional areas.
And we can demonstrate that in flumes. We have a flume that was built by Professor Clark and Professor Voss.
You see, don't ever believe that believing in creation and believing the Bible as a model for geology is not science, because it gives testable statements that we can then go test to explain the world around us.
So the Bible is a science.
Whereas evolution is basically giving us the impossible and expecting us to buy it.
Yes.
It's the
And
Bible
a whole generation
is
has
absolutely
done
true.
so. So again,
Again,
believing the impossible.
the impossible is eliminated, which leaves what the world doesn't want to believe in, the improbable, that there was a world-covering flood on this planet.
That's right.
But it's reality.
Yes,
Even
it
though it's a
is.
one-time event that can't be repeated, and that's why they think it's improbable, it's truth and it's reality, and it explains those rock layers.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So we move from cosmology to geology to biology.
To biology, living systems.
They're a wonder. Oh, how any biologist cannot look at life and have his jaw drop open and fall down and worship the creator is beyond me.
He should.
On the other hand, I was brought through this education system, and by the time I got out of college, I didn't believe in God.
Certainly. Certainly.
You never hear about him.
Programmed out.
It's all
Sure.
supposedly explained away. But they ignore these kind of things. This page is called Faster Than a Speeding Bullet.
I love it.
And I just picked one animal, which is the chameleon. See, the chameleon has a tongue that's up to 1.5 times the length of his body.
Mm-hmm.
So where does that tongue fit in his mouth? I mean, how do you get a tongue that's, if you're 6 foot tall, that's 9 foot long into your mouth? Well, it turns out it actually wraps back down into his throat and coils with a special mechanism that's shaped just like a catapult. The French used to develop catapults called trebuchets, which had a mechanism which dropped a weight and snapped forward to send rocks for miles at
This
huge
is intriguing.
speeds. Well, inside of that chameleon's mouth, there is a trebuchet with a muscle attached to a large weight that yanks back and flips the tongue forward, and it accelerates at 50 Gs of acceleration. Now, even astronauts don't move that fast as they're
No.
leaving the Earth. And right before that tongue grabs an insect, there are muscles that pull back the tongue to form a little suction cup that grab onto the insect. And so it doesn't just knock the insect away.
Right.
So it sucks onto it and pulls it back into its mouth.
Incredible.
At the blink of an eye, you can't even see it happen. Now,
explain how evolution could do that.
well, in order for that tongue to work, all the parts have to be there. I mean, it
Yes.
has to have the muscles that pull the suction cap, or this critter is never going to get any food.
Oh, no, you're
It
just
has
gonna
to
knock
have
the
the
insect
muscles that
away.
flip down, that zoom the tongue out, or you just got a big tongue that's in the way.
And the
it starves.
retracting suction.
So you've got a whole bunch of parts that all have to be there. It's a concept called irreducible complexity.
Yes.
Like a mousetrap has to have a platform, a spring, a catch, a hammer, at
right.
least 5 parts, or it doesn't work. So if you only have 4 parts, it's a worthless piece of junk.
That's right.
If you have the parts in the wrong order, it's a worthless piece of junk. You have to have
And
all
this
the
chameleon
parts.
starves to death.
He does. So how do you develop it one step at a time, which is what evolution requires?
Yes.
And every step has to have an advantage. It has to have some functional purpose,
Yes.
or why would the critter keep making those parts?
Yes.
See, it's an impossibility
You've
for all
got
those
it.
parts to form. It's impossible.
That's right.
So once again, in cosmology, in geology, in biology, and these are just 3 of thousands of examples, what you have when you try to put the puzzle together without the cover, without the picture, without the border, just trying to make up a story to explain everything as if God's never been involved, you end up believing the impossible.
Believing the impossible, therefore, the alternative, even though you think it improbable,
Is the truth.
is the truth.
And isn't that
Sherlock
what
Holmes
everybody...
came to the rescue of this program.
He was a fictional character, but you know, there was a brilliant man behind it. He
Yes.
wasn't even a Christian, and yet he wrote a very true statement.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Well, would you encapsulate all 3 of these in just a succinct moment? This is tremendous, Bruce. This communicates. Would you just put them all together for the audience again?
Once again, we're surrounded by skeptics. But we're also surrounded by people who I think deep down are looking for the truth.
Yes, everybody's really
And
looking.
Rather than really start talking about technical details and complicated stuff, this isn't rocket science. If we can just show people that God's Word is meant to be trusted from the very beginning, it will lead them in the direction where they start to believe what it has to say about other things. One quote from His Word. Jesus, when questioned about, Nicodemus came in the middle of the night with a conversation in John 3:16, and that's where Jesus said, "For God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son, that whoever would believe in Him would not perish but have everlasting life." John 3:16.
Yes.
John 3:12. 4 verses earlier, Jesus looks at Nicodemus and He says, "Nicodemus, if I tell you of worldly things
Yes.
and you do not believe me, how will you believe me if I tell you of spiritual things?"
You've got
You
it.
see, we are looking at the physical world, and the Bible starts by talking about biology. Creatures reproduce after their own kind. 10 times it says it.
Yes.
The Bible starts by talking about geology, a worldwide flood to
That's
explain the
right.
rock layers. It starts about talking about cosmology. Where did the
Yes.
stars in the heavens
And he
come
made
from?
the stars also.
If the Bible's wrong about all those subjects, why would we expect the world to believe it when it talks about spiritual stuff? But it's not.
It is not wrong.
The Bible's right about all those subjects, and we've only tried to make up a story to avoid the implications of why we are sinful and how to come back into fellowship with God. So we make up this story to try to discredit the Bible called evolution.
You've got it. Now, how do we put all of this scattered puzzle together? Well, we need to answer the question, who made the box? Inside the box are gorgeous gems, a string of pearls, and every living system called proteins. Those have to be configured in the exact relationship. Specifically, you mix one of them up and you get a lethal dose of death. In order for life to exist, the entire universe must be orchestrated. The gravity of the most distant ring shell of galaxies affects our movement of a single finger. The the entire universe shows orchestration, an outside agency with a capital A. God made the box. And that's not all. Not only did He make the box, He was so concerned about our well-being that He announced He was going to send His Son in the early chapters of Genesis, the seed plot of the Bible. He announced He was going to send His own offspring, whose heel would be wounded, but in turn would bruise the head of Satan, the usurper. And all through the Bible we have a thread bringing us to His appearance. He walked among us. He went to Calvary. He died for our sins. The sinless one became sin for us. He was buried, but 72 hours later, on the third day, He arose from the dead. And the good news is that Creator who made the box, who made the cosmos, who explained the geology, who made the living systems, offered Himself for us. Now that He did, now that He arose from the dead and is alive at this moment, He is asking admission into your own heart. Would you pray this simple prayer? Just pray with me this simple prayer. Dear God, I'm a sinner. I've been looking at things wrong. I need You to straighten me out. Lord Jesus, right now, I open my heart's door to You. Lord Jesus, right now, come into my heart. Forgive my sins. Cover me with Your blood. Become my Savior right now. And I'll serve You with all my heart. Now that you know who made the box, and now that you're enveloped in His love and care, and you're a member of His family, welcome home to the treasures of God.
Creation in the 21st Century has been sponsored by Trinity Broadcasting Network, and only with your love gift of support can this program stay on the air. So write to Creation in the 21st Century, P.O. Box A, Santa Ana, California, 92711.